Hello Sagittarius, and welcome to Embrace the Moon Tarot in your August 2017 reading. And I was just sitting here shuffling and trying to get a sense of what sort of present energy I could tap into, and I found just kind of a contentful happiness. Is contentful even a word? Oh my gosh. So yeah, just you're feeling good. Some things have fallen into place for you, and yeah, you're just feeling happy about how things are starting to, you're at a place where you feel like things that you were considering other people's opinions regarding what was going on in your life, you're at a place where you feel like you don't have to pay attention to them anymore. Or you might pay attention to them, or you might hear them, but you don't feel like it has as much of a hold or impact or impression on who you are right now and the decisions that you're making, or just basically how it influences how you feel. So that's where your happiness is coming from. So let's go ahead and see what we have for the rest of August and what sort of vibrations you can anticipate coming across your path. Okay, current energy, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, strength, possible obstacle, recent past, and potential future. So recent past, we have the Queen of Swords, and this is an indication of that place that you were and how at one point in time you were a bit overwhelmed by others' opinions, perceptions, and judgments of some of the decisions that you were making or in the process of making, and judgments that they were assuming that you were making even if you weren't actually making them, but they were passing judgments, making assumptions that you were going to make certain decisions, and you're really kind of in this internal turmoil regarding it. And you managed to, in the recent past, somehow cut through all of that and nurture yourself and take a hold of and take control of your thoughts, and you were able to nurture your own perceptions and shed and slice away all of their judgments, so that all of the thoughts that ran through your head were those of your own. And because of that, you started the process and got yourself to where, like I said, you feel now that you don't feel as though other people's impressions, thoughts, and judgments are going to be as impactful and are going to have as much power over you and how you feel personally about yourself. So this was something that just happened not too long ago, and it gives us the present energy. It takes us into the present energy of the Seven of Pentacles, and just even though you're at a state, you've done all of this work and you're feeling really good, you're still at this kind of position where you've done this hard work to allow yourself to cut away all of this judgment that you were passing on yourself through the eyes of others, but you still realize that there's work to be done, and there's a kind of a moment of anticipation of more to come. Because of where you're at right now, there's still a lot that's going on, and I made that reference of how there are others who are making judgments regarding yourself, and it's based on their assumptions, not so much something you've said or done, but what they're assuming you're doing, what they're assuming you're going to choose, what they're assuming you have already done. They haven't really clarified this with you, but they've just kind of had this, there's this judgment that's kind of going on, and you're very, very aware of it. And it's all based on assumptions, and no one's trying to come to you to fact check either, to see if these are true. And as a result of that, that's one of the reasons why you've been so hard on yourself, because you've been having a hard time deciphering and trying to slice away their thoughts and their opinions, and you've managed to do that. But despite doing that, this is still ongoing. So it's kind of like you're waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for it to intensify. You're waiting for more work that you'll have to do to kind of get through this, because you know the judgments are still going to come. I feel like there are some decisions that you have already made, or decisions that are on the table for you to make, and some you might not even know about. And so you are already anticipating the work that you're going to have to go through to cut away their judgment, so that you can nurture your emotions based on how you feel, not based on your perception through their eyes. And so, like I said, you're at a good place, and you feel good because you've managed to slice away and discern your emotions from there. But you are very much aware of the fact that it's not over, and this is work that you're going to have to continue to do. But you're at this state of I don't want to say plateau, but I guess you could say at a plateau. Nothing's going on right now. Nothing's being said or assumed or judged right now, specifically, but some of the things that have been said, assumed, and judged still feel very fresh and raw, but you've managed to work through them, and you know there's more to come. And you're right, there's more to come, but don't get wrapped up too much in that anticipation that you feed fear and anxiety. You just want to feed and nurture yourself instead of feeding that fear and anxiety of what could possibly happen. Keep building your strength and recognizing who you are through your own eyes versus through their eyes. That being said, in the physical realm, and I feel that for you in this reading specifically, this is very much speaking on the terms of physical, as in what makes up your world. You've been experiencing some personal victories, and again, I feel that this is kind of basically validating what I just said. This is in a way validating what I just said about how you had that personal victory of where you've been able to discern the difference, and you've been able to cut away their judgment so that you can see yourself through your eyes instead of seeing yourself through their eyes. And this has been a personal victory for you, and you have some people that are close to you who have been kind of maybe possibly mentoring you and trying to help you see this, but you had to make that breakthrough on your own. No matter how much they've tried and you've understood what they've said, it was still something you had to come up on and understand on your own. And this breakthrough is kind of a personal victory for you, because you've been working really hard at this sort of acceptance of yourself because of changes that you've been going through. So this personal victory is something that you are celebrating, not only personally, but these people who've been supporting you and who you know haven't been judging you, and they've helped you to see yourself through your eyes because of how you've managed to see how to love yourself through their eyes. They're celebrating this victory for you once it happens. And there are some of you who it may have already happened, and there are those of you who it's yet to come, but you're close and you can feel it. You understand that you're at a point where you can really celebrate this personal victory and personal win. Despite the win, mentally we have this struggle of wondering, again, validating that Seven of Pentacles, waiting for the other shoe to drop, knowing that it's not over, knowing the judgments are still going to come. You can't control other people's thoughts, but mentally you run the risk, and I had said that when we were talking about the Seven of Pentacles, don't become overwhelmed, because you run the risk of getting back into that position, getting stuck again, where you are blinded by the judgments and you can't see yourself through your eyes anymore. You can't see yourself through the eyes of those who love and support you, and you start to see yourself again through the eyes of those who are judging you, and making assumptions, and are feeding the anxieties. So mentally you're still going to have that struggle, and I think it comes back to that. I mean, it's validating that Seven of Pentacles. It's saying this is a current energy that not only do you have a victory, but you also are anticipating the shoe to drop. Not only have you had this success and you feel better for it, and you understand the clarification in the personal epiphany that you've had, you still have this, little bit kind of whispering in the back of your mind of a wondering anticipation, and still questioning how much you know about yourself versus how much you should be trying to please, appease, or not so much please or appease as much as you feel like you need to set these people straight. You feel the need to let them know this isn't how it is, but then you get caught up in this struggle because they're not going to change their perception until they're ready to, not any more or less than you were ready to see that epiphany and have that personal victory, even though those who supported you were trying to show you this. We all take these journeys on our own time, and sometimes people are just slower in their journey, and it's not on us to try to push them to see things from our perspective, because they have their own schematics, they have their own life experiences that dictate how they're going to interpret, how they're going to perceive things. But you really want to let them know how you truly are. You're tired of the assumptions. You're trying to prove the assumptions wrong so you can prove the judgments wrong. But you're going to get caught up in that, and then because of that, you have the potential of getting wrapped up in your own head and starting to feed some of those anxieties, and then of course getting back to where you were before you had this epiphany. So it's going to be something that's not just going to go away because you've had this epiphany, you've had this clarity. So it is still something that you're going to struggle with. And I feel that the Eight of Swords is letting you know that yes, it's going to be a struggle, but you don't have to succumb to it. Go back to that place where you realized whatever it was that you realized that allowed you to see yourself through your own eyes versus through these other people's eyes who have a tendency to judge you. You know it's coming, so prepare for it. Those people who celebrate with you, talk to them if you need to or you can, to get yourself out of that trying to prove these other people how wrong they are with their assumption and how right you are, and that their assumptions were false or unbiased or biased or unbased. Don't get caught up in that at all, because you're just going to get yourself trapped. You're going to trap yourself, and you might feel just as bad as you did before you had this personal epiphany. Emotionally, we have the Sun, and I feel that despite having this going on and having these people who are judging and prejudging and having this battle that you have that you can't control, because you can't control other people's ideas and thoughts and judgments and perceptions, you can just do you and be true to you. There are those who are very, very supportive, and because of that you're emotionally strong, and there are blessings that you feel that you have because of certain people who've always been there for you, who've never made assumptions, who don't make a judgment. Sometimes there are those some of you may have some of those who give you tough love and tell you how it is even when you're not ready to receive it, but it's from a loving place. And so through all of this, I feel that you're going to really find a place of great appreciation for these people who really have been supportive and loving, and like I said, has helped to show you the way, even though at the time you may not have seen it because you had to come to this on your own, but you managed to see how you could love yourself as yourself through the love and compassion that these very supportive and loving people are in your life. So you feel that you're going to have this moment within August at some time where you're just going to really have this realization of these people who are loving and supportive and how much they really mean to you. Not that you don't realize how great they are to have in your life, but if you have those moments where it's like, wow, yeah, that person is really good to me, and you really recognize it, or those people, or whatever. And I feel that that's something you're going to experience throughout August. And some of it might be because of the support that they're going to give as you kind of waver back and forth from this victory and epiphany to wondering and questioning and struggling and back and forth, and they're going to be there to be that voice. And some of it might be as you're struggling, you might have those moments where you remember how they've given you the tough love, or they've given you the boot in the backside, or if they've kind of told you, no, that's not how it is, you need to rethink this. Either way, you're going to have a moment or several moments where it's really going to help you recognize these people who are very emotionally supportive, and from their emotional support, you've managed to be emotionally supportive to yourself, and you've managed to grow as a result of it. Spiritually, we have King of Pentacles, and I get a really good sense that you're very strong spiritually, and it probably helped with some of the clarity that you had, but I feel that there's been some connections that you've experienced spiritually, and there's some things that you've been doing to help with your spirituality, and I feel it's all been external. It's not that you have been spending more time meditating, and more time trying to connect to the divine or anything like that. I think it's been more that you've been finding ways to externalize what you feel inside, and trying to allow some of these micro changes that have occurred deep within inside, to express it by being available for others, or doing something on the line of spirituality that can give to others and give them space to grow in one way or another. And so I feel like you're on fire spiritually. You're so grounded, you're so connected, you're on fire spiritually, and you're really starting to radiate externally what you've been feeling internally spiritually. So you're in a really good place spiritually, and like I said, that probably gave you some of that space to have that epiphany and that personal victory. And I just feel like you should just ride it. Just take it for what it is, and let it take you wherever it is that it's going to take you. Your strength for the month is 5 of Wands, which represents chaos. But I feel that within the chaos is where oftentimes there are great beginnings. And again, this, whatever it is that you've been going through, that you've been feeling the pressure of judgment from other people, it is from that this epiphany was born. This self-love was born. So it is that chaos that this version of yourself has been birthed. So it's the chaos that is going to be your strength, because no, it's not going to die down completely. I don't feel that it's as bad as it has been, but I feel that through it all, you're starting to recognize what you're gaining from all of this. And because of that, that's your strength. Your ability to look through this and see how you have grown and expanded, and what has been birthed as a result of it. That is why you find strength in the 5 of Wands. And it's going to continue through August. Being able to continue to see the chaos around you, and also see, aside from that, how much you've grown and expanded. That is your strength, and that's what's going to carry you, and that's what's going to feed this epiphany. That's what's going to fight off some of that wavering of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and wondering, if you should be having a standoff with these people who are still judging and assuming about you. This is going to keep you strong. You're going to realize the path that you want to take. Your possible obstacle is 6 of Swords, and I feel that this, in its most simplest term, would be complacency. Don't allow yourself to get to where you're feeling good spiritually, you've had this victory, I'm just gonna sit back and do nothing. That's gonna be your downfall. I feel that you are supposed to run with this King of Pentacles energy, that spirituality that has you grounded yet on fire at the same time. You're supposed to be working with that, and I feel that you have been working with it. You've been doing things with it, like I said, externalizing what you've been feeling inside. You're supposed to be continuing working on that personal victory, so that you become a another victory and another victory, so you can continue to lift yourself up and continue to get away from these assumptions and judgments that you feel are near. And I don't mean physically, unless that is something you feel you need to do, but mentally and emotionally you can detach without actually completely disconnecting, unless it is actually healthier for you to disconnect. But you don't have to disconnect completely. There's a balance there, and that's part of your lesson, I guess you could say, for the month, is figuring out the balance. Especially if some of these people who are making these judgments and assumptions are people who are close to you, but they just misunderstand the situation. You know, you might not want to completely cut off all ties, and then that creates its own, you know, bucket of worms, as they say. So you gotta find a way so that you can get away without completely disconnecting, unless you feel that you are supposed to indeed disconnect. But finding that balance, that's going to be your obstacle. Knowing how to stay attached and still be detached. What's the healthy balance there? What's the balance of getting away but not completely being disconnected from these entities or these people, if that is indeed how it's supposed to be? That's your obstacle for the month. And I feel that it's not new, but it's not been resolved, so that's why it's still a problem for you. Potential outcome for the month is 9 of Swords. And I think this is very much reliant on how you handle that waiting for the other shoe to drop, and how you handle continuing to consider the assumptions and judgments. And if you're able to disconnect and get away from them and get a reprieve from it and find yourself aside or apart from it, how well you do this, or I should say how well you don't do this, can lead into being mentally overwhelmed and tired, and get to the point where you negate that epiphany and you negate that victory that you had. You have a potential of falling backwards slightly. And I think that the biggest thing that you can get from this particular reading is that one of the keys to trying to avoid this from happening is continuing to externalize that internal fire that you've had spiritually, that spark that you've had, and how much you've grown, and how you're trying to share that in ways. That's your focus, because this is going to feed that victory and that epiphany and help you to continue to keep that separation. But if you don't get that healthy balance, and you end up not getting yourself breaking away like you should, and not disconnecting like you should, you have the potential of you know, being overwhelmed mentally, and like I said, kind of kicking yourself back to where you were before you had that epiphany, and then you're going to feel like you have to start over again. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a quick card to sort of give this a summary, and maybe give you a little something to carry with you as you go through the rest of August. Maybe a mantra or whatever, but let's see what we can pull from you. So just go ahead and shuffle. Eden, old and new order. And this is just letting you know about that journey that I said about how you have the potential of getting overwhelmed. And because of that overwhelm, you can negate that epiphany that you had. and take you back to where you were before you had that epiphany and the struggles that you had emotionally and mentally before that. So this is sort of letting you know to be mindful as you struggle, as you consider, as you go back and forth from reveling in that epiphany and that personal victory, and struggling, waiting for that shoe to drop, and wondering when the assumptions and the judgments are going to begin again and start to kind of wreak havoc on your life. Try to focus on the new order. Try to recognize and decipher between how it used to be and how it is now, how you used to be and how you are now, and really reside and the strength and the power that you have, that you have experienced within and of yourself since you've had this personal victory, so that you can carry forward and continue into the new order, and leave whatever no longer serves you behind, what has never served you, and be able to leave that behind. So Eden, old and new order, that is your card to kind of take you through. So like when you waffle back and forth, you can kind of remember old and new order. Let me decipher, let me cut through the BS and figure out what was the old order, what is the new order, how can I go from here. All right, that is all I have for you, Sagittarius. I hope you have a great August. Make it a great one, and hopefully I'll see you in September.